What's up, Jets Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and we're back this week. We're back to the Juicy Jet Podcast. The Knicks hype and all that stuff from last week was so fun and an amazing time, but it's time to get back to NFL football, and I will talk about the Knicks a little bit because I did go to the parade, so I do want to hit on my parade experience because once in a lifetime, who knows, may never happen again for me, so I want to talk about how I got to my spot, because I had a great spot if you saw it all across social media and things like that. And then we'll go into some Jets stuff. Obviously, the Jets just wrapped up minicamp OTAs, and now we've got like a 5-6 week break. Training camp dates were just announced, but it's going to be a down period for the next couple weeks until we get to training camp. So let's talk about some of the stuff that came out of OTAs. We got a Joe Tippman extension to talk about. We've got new updates in the Brendan Sorsby situation. So there's a lot going on in Jetsland, even though we're about to hit the most quiet period. And oh my gosh, I totally forgot. The last thing we do need to talk about as well is this Geno Smith potential domestic allegation thing that happened last night out of nowhere, but hasn't really been talked about much. So I don't know if it's anything. We will discuss it a little bit here. So let's start with the Knicks, because obviously I was coming off the highest of all highs, literally recorded the day after the Knicks won the NBA championship. And now this past week, they had their parade on Thursday down the Canyon of Heroes. And it was one heck of an experience, I'll tell you that. So for me, obviously, as a Jets, Mets, Islanders, and Knicks fan, I never thought I'd be going to a parade. I thought I would be old, probably wouldn't be able to go, like that kind of a thing. That's how long it feels like it's going to take for my teams to win a championship. But the Knicks did it, and I was like, I cannot let this moment pass without me going. Now, luckily, I was already off that day. The reason I was off is I was going to a buddy's bachelor party, and my flight was on Thursday. So what did I do? I said, sorry, buddy, once-in-a-lifetime experience. I pushed my flight back to Friday, went to the parade instead. So luckily I was already off work, didn't have to have any awkward conversations about that, but everybody pretty much knew I was going because they know how big of a sports fan I am. So I was like reading about it, and I'm like, how the heck am I supposed to, like, when do I go? What do I bring? Like, it sounds like there's going to be 3 to 5 million people at this parade. What do I do? The parade starts at 10 down the Canyon of Heroes, and my goal was to meet up with a bunch of other, Jets fans, and there's some content creators and people like that who are going to be there. And I was like, all right, I'll go meet up with them. So I'm like ready to go to the spot where they say to meet up. I end up waking up at 5 in the morning, 4:45, something like that. And I'm like, I'm going to try to get there by 6. If I can get there by 6, I know I'm going to get a spot somewhere where I'll be able to see, and I'll at least be close. And it sounds like a lot of people who did that had to wait because they didn't open up the gates till 6 and then didn't get a good spot. But the reason why I got so lucky is I took the L to the 456, took it down to Fulton Street because I was like, that's the closest place to where we were supposed to meet up. But for some reason, I was just positioned in the perfect spot on the train that when the doors opened, I opened up to this stairway right in front of me in the Fulton Street train station that took me right out to a gate that was just opening. So nobody was there. And it was on the other side of the street of where they were letting everyone else in. So I walked through this security thing. I didn't get food. I didn't get water. I got nothing. And I said, see you later to my Jets friends. So I'm like, I'm not hanging out with you because I got a spot right up against the railing. Now, remember, it was probably like 6:15, 6:20 in the morning at this point. It doesn't start till 10. So I got to sit there for 4 hours and wait for the parade to start. And obviously by the time I was like closer to City Hall, so by the time they got to me, it was going to be like 11 o'clock. So it's really 5 hours of standing there waiting. But because I got such a good spot, I was just extremely lucky. I was just grateful to be there. I was like, I don't even care that I don't have any friends around me. I will make friends with these other Knicks fans. And I did. And it was a wild experience. I mean, they pack you into these barricades like wild animals, essentially. And everyone's just standing there. Luckily, no one was really like pushing or shoving. There was nothing like that. People had to sit down at certain points. Not me, though. Built different. Like I said, I didn't have any water or food because I was a little nervous that if I drank water, I have to go to the bathroom, and you can't leave. Like, once you are in the pen, you can't get out, and there's no, stores aren't open on that street that day. So there's nothing to do. So I took a risk, and I didn't drink. Now, there were a lot of people that were just fainting everywhere. Like, everywhere you looked, people were fainting in these barricades, and the cops couldn't get to them. So what they would do is maybe one cop would jump the barricade, and they would like lift up the person that fainted and just take them out and put them in the middle of the street. And they would like, give them water and cool them down, all that kind of stuff. I've never seen that many people faint before in my entire life. It was actually a very wild experience getting to see that live. And I'm just like, oh shoot, is my time coming? Am I about to faint too? And then there was some other crazy stuff happening where people were standing on scaffolding. And obviously scaffolding's meant for like a couple workers to be up there, not 50 people standing there for a parade jumping up and down. So the cops were trying to get the people on the scaffolding down, and they weren't listening because they're like, once in a lifetime, I got a great view on top of the scaffolding. So that was a whole thing. And, we're all cheering for the cops to get out of here and leave them alone, or just tell them to get off the scaffolding. It was a mess. But when the moment came that the first couple floats rolled right down the street, it was just, I don't know, like a parade is not a big deal when you really think about it. When I think about a parade, I think about like kids going to Disney World and watching the Disney parade. But I'm standing there, I'm like, I'm crying right now watching this parade. There are tears rolling down my face watching 20-something-year-old basketball players on a float. It was the dumbest thing ever. But I was so emotional watching it because of how big the moment was, how much sports means to me, and the fact that I never thought I would see something like it before. So it was great. You had confetti everywhere. People are going bananas, and no one was being rude or anything like that. Like, I had a little kid next to me that was kind of all over the place, but like he wasn't bothering anybody. So there were no fights. Everybody was just having a good time cheering for their people going down the street. And, one of the first floats was OG and Mondami on the front of a float. And then there's Cat in the middle of the float, like looking like he's living his best life, smoking a cigar, holding one of the trophies, just like dancing in his Knicks jacket. And OG's just standing there. He's not even doing anything. I'm like, does this guy have fun ever? But I love him, so whatever. It was so cool. So you saw them go down. Mitch Robinson brought his own truck, his Knicks truck, or his Mitch Robinson truck. I don't know what you want to call it. So it was funny watching him. Bridges actually got off his float and was right in front of us and was messing around with some of the fans and things like that. So that was great. Unfortunately, I didn't get a great view of Jalen Brunson. Brunson was on the other side of his float, so I couldn't really see him. But like, luckily, as his float went by, I saw Mariska Hargitay and Spike Lee and some of the other celebrities there. There was one float, and they try to like keep floats with like certain types of groups. So like the coaching staff had a float. Each player had maybe like 2 players were on each float. Then there was like fancy cars that the old time players were on, like Clyde, for example, or who else? Patrick Ewing was on his own. But then there was also floats with celebrities. So, I got the Ben Stiller, Timothy Chalamet, the Stephon Marbury, Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, all right in front of me. Chris Rock was on a float. Like, all these guys that, you always see at the front of Celebrity Row were in the parade, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, it was just a great experience. Josh Hart was hilarious. I think he was trying to light a cigar. Maybe he was smoking weed. I'm not really sure what he was doing, but he was trying to light whatever he was smoking, and he just seemed like he was living his best life. It was quite an experience. It was great to see Alvarado. It was great to see Landry Shamet. Like, Jordan Clarkson is hilarious as well. So it was just really cool. And, I think those moments were worth it. I thought waiting for it was worth it. I don't know if I could do it again for the, like waiting out there that long. I would have to find another way. Maybe it's buying a ticket into the City Hall area. But it was really cool. It was well worth it, and I'm very happy for the Knicks team and that they won. But all right, that's 10 minutes on the Knicks. All I know is let's get one for the Jets. If the Jets get a parade ever, I'm going to do everything humanly possible to get on a float. We need a Juicy Jet float. A Badlands float, a Jake Asman show float, any of the other content creators, Hot Girl Talk Sports with Bree float. We need a Matt O'Leary float. Like, everybody's got to get involved. Our Jets Worldwide crew, we need them on a float. Because, man, we've been through a lot, and I would love for us to be involved in that some way, somehow. But let's get back to our New York Jets. So, obviously, the Jets just wrap up OTAs, minicamp. Both the mandatory and voluntary portions are both over with. Aaron Glenn actually gave them off the last day. They did all their media days as well, so all that content and pictures of players that you're going to see on the big screens at MetLife, that was all done. It seems like most players got involved, which is very cool. It seems like for all of OTAs and minicamp, it was very high participation. I think the only people that didn't participate were Kenyon Sadiq because of his injury, and then Cade Klubnik towards the end had some back soreness and tightness. So it was just like, hey, let's not worry about it. Let's get him ready for training camp. So pretty good showing from the Jets, and it feels like now that we have all these veterans on the team, we're more of an adult organization. It seems like, when you think about the guys that spoke the last couple days of training camp, you got Harrison Phillips, you've got David Onyemata, you've got Minka Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, Geno Smith. You've just got players who have been around the block a little bit and understand what it's like to run a tight operation during these camps to make sure that you get ready for the season, and are leaders for some of the young guys that we have on our team. So it's really nice to see that, and it was cool to listen to some of these players. And if you get a chance, do it. Like it's really cool to see their backstories. If you want, you can watch Flight 26, which is out right now. I think there's like 3 episodes out from the New York Jets. For some reason, they let me speak in episode 2, and they interviewed me at the Badlands event, and I got my one snippet in there, which was nice. But it's a cool way to get to know some of the players on the team, like a Minka, like a Geno Smith, people like that. So I thought that was great. I think some of the big things coming out of OTAs, though, is, there's probably one big MVP that everyone's super excited about, and that's A.D. Mitchell. It seems like A.D. Mitchell and Geno Smith have this connection that's growing. Now, I would say let's not read into it too much. There's no pads on. It's touch football right now, which he should dominate because he's one of the most athletic people on the team. He's just physically so gifted. He can go deep. He's fast. He's big. He can catch. So I think that's interesting. But last year he was getting open. We couldn't hit him. And even on some of the good throws that we did throw his way, he had some drop issues. So I'm still a little cautious about it. I'm also very cautious about how Geno's going to play during the regular season. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself with A.D. Mitchell, but it would be so clutch to have a good number 2 next to Garrett Wilson. Because Omar Cooper is going to take time. I don't think he's going to come right out of the gate and be our second best receiver, but I think he'll learn and he'll get there eventually. While A.D. Mitchell is such a weapon, you can use him as a decoy if you wanted to, because he can just go deep and blow the top off the defense at any moment and save up some room for Omar Cooper and Garrett Wilson. So we'll see how that all plays out, but it was nice to see him. Some of the other big things that came out of it, Braylon Allen gaining a bunch of weight. I don't know that I love that he gained a bunch of weight. He was already big, and it wasn't really making him a good player. So why would we make him bigger? I don't know about that one. We'll see. I mean, he's going to look great in training camp. He always does. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not ready to completely sell my Braylon Allen stock, but I'm getting close. My stone hands are getting a little softer on Braylon Allen, and I just want to make sure that we have someone good and reliable behind Breece, even though Breece is going to be the bell cow under Frank Reich. Obviously, Frank Reich had some great players with him, like Christian McCaffrey, like Jonathan Taylor. So hope so. Be an every down player. The next thing let me just skim through the roster a little bit too. Maybe let's just talk really quickly about some more of the, battles that we're going to see in training camp. We're going to talk more about it as training camp gets closer, but let's talk about some of the positions that I'm looking at. So right now, I think the big ones across the board are going to be safety 2. Who is going to play next to Minka Fitzpatrick? Is it going to be Dane Belton? Is Dane Belton going to be the guy? Is it going to be Andre Cisco? Is he back and he's going to start? Is it going to be Malachi Moore? Malachi Moore had a okay year last year in his rookie year, so maybe they think he can step into the role. My gut right now says that Minka's going to start alongside Andre Cisco because Cisco's the veteran. I think they're going to rotate Belton in a lot because he can make some tackles and things like that. My big question is, does Malachi Moore break in and take Cisco's spot at any point? Now, Cisco's also coming off a major injury, so who knows if he's going to be totally healthy the whole year. But I would love to see Malachi Moore turn into a consistent starter. It's just, he was a, 5th round pick, so maybe 4th round pick, whatever it was. So we'll see what he can actually become. But it would be nice to have a young guy step up in that spot and not have to watch Andre Cisco. So I think that's a big one. When it comes to other positions that we have on the roster, cornerback 2. So you can pretty much solidify Brandon Stevens as cornerback 1. The big question is who's the other player that's going to step up across from him. Obviously, we have AZ Thomas, who was a rookie last year. We only saw a little bit of him, and then he got hurt. So I'm not comfortable enough to say that he's going to be cornerback 2. You got Nashawn Wright, who was a Pro Bowler from the Bears. He can turn the ball over like crazy. He's super tall. The problem is he's like very much hit or miss. He's either picking the ball off or giving up a 40-yard touchdown. So we'll see if he develops and get a little bit better, but it seems like he might be leading the charge right now for cornerback 2, but training camp is going to be the big deciding factor. And then, of course, you've got our rookie from the second round, D'Angelo Pons. Now, for me, it feels like Pons might be battling more with Brownlee for the slot role to start the year, but I could see Pons becoming an outside corner very quickly, and I think a lot of Jets fans are putting a lot of stock in D'Angelo Pons right now because they feel like he can be one of the better players coming out of this draft that we just had. So excited about him. Other key position battles. Looks like the D-line is pretty much set. It's going to be mostly a rotation, which is nice. Edge, you got Will and you've got David Bailey, obviously. There'll be another rotation there, of course, with Joseph Asai, Kingsley Enigbare. So there's some guys there that can rotate. Linebacker, it looks like it's just going to be Sherwood and Demario Davis. The big question is going to be who's that backup going to be for them? You can look at a guy like Kiko Malagoa, I guess, would be an option. You got Marcelino McCrary-Ball is still back on the team. I don't know. I'm very worried about backup linebacker. If Demario Davis gets hurt with age or if Jamian Sherwood happens to get hurt, I think we're in big trouble. Mykal Walker is on the team as well, who was okay. But these guys are all, I think, better in the run game than they are in stopping the pass, which is a little tough. So linebacker is pretty much set. Offensive line, obviously no competition there. It's just going to be who gets the backup jobs. So I think that's going to be the thing you're going to be looking for. Can a guy like Inez Cooper, the rookie, make this squad? Which I think he will. It's just which spot is he going to take? Is he going to take Xavier Newman's spot? I'm not sure. Wide receiver looks pretty set. I think the big question is how involved is Isaiah Williams? Isaiah Williams had a really good year last year, obviously returning the ball, and he was our team MVP. Can he be involved in the offense at all? And I think he can. They seem to be using him a lot down the stretch, so we'll see what that looks like. Big competition is QB2. Right now, it's between Bailey Zappi, Cade Klubnik. Doesn't seem like Brady Cook is very involved at all. Cade Klubnik did get hurt in OTAs, so he didn't get out there as much as you would like. My thing is, I don't think either of these guys are very good or going to be ready for our second quarterback job. If Geno Smith happens to get hurt or if something happens with these allegations that came out recently, is Aaron Glenn really going to bank his Jets head coach career on Cade Klubnik or Bailey Zappi at this point? I don't think it's worth it, but it sounds like they're just going to let them duke it out until we see what happens during training camp and during some of the preseason games. Running back is all set. Tight end seems pretty set. It looks like Mason Taylor. It looks like they're all going to rotate. Mason Taylor, Kenyon Sadiq, and Jeremy Ruckert, but Sadiq will be the primary guy out there. And then wide receiver 2, I think we're good. I think that you've got your top 3. So no big competitions there besides backup quarterback, backup offensive line. And then kicker, obviously you've got Cade York versus Jason Sanders, who we just recently signed. For me, I'd be all over Jason Sanders as long as he's healthy. I know he was hurt the past couple of years, but we'll see what happens with Jason Sanders. He's a former Pro Bowl kicker, so he's a good one. And then finally, the last thing is our MVP, which is obviously Austin McNamara. We have no competition at punter. Punter is set and ready to rock and roll. So that's where I'm at right now with the roster. Now, one of the big things that we want to talk about that just came up is a Joe Tippman extension. So Joe Tippman gets re-signed. Obviously, you didn't have to sign him right now, but we got ahead of it. I love that Darren Muji is getting ahead of these signings, and let's talk a little bit about who might be next. But Joe Tippman gets a 4-year, $66.4 million contract extension, keeps him here through the 2030 season. The guaranteed money is only $34.9 million, puts him at about $16 million a year, which is like the 15th, 16th best guard in the league, or highest paid guard in the league, which for me is so cheap. I cannot believe that this is the deal we got for Joe Tippman. Maybe they're trying to figure out like if he is still the guy and maybe it doesn't work out after 2 or 3 years and you want to move on. You totally can with this kind of a contract. I love Tippman. I think Tippman is playing awesome. I think he's a team player, obviously moving from center to guard last year. So I'm very happy to have him, and I'm glad we don't have to deal with going back and forth or him competing in the guard market and free agency. We just get him. We just lock him down now. So very happy for Tippman. Reliable player, seems to consistently be durable, and it's just a core piece of this offensive line. So now you've got him, Olu, who's still under contract, Membu still under contract, and then we just got to figure out center and guard over the next couple of years. But you can plug and play some of those spots. So feeling really good about who we're setting up this future young quarterback to sit behind in terms of, good young players. And I think Olu's going to get better this year. Membu was awesome last year, so if he's just as good last year as he was last year, I'm going to be super pumped. So I think we're in a really good position across the offensive line. Now the big question is who's next? So number one, I think Harrison Phillips is on a non-guaranteed contract right now. I think they get that switched before the season starts. I think they give him some guaranteed money just in case he gets hurt, give him some safety, and then you slap that captain's badge on his uniform because he's definitely one of the leaders in the locker room right now, and I personally just love the guy. I think he's a great teammate, so I think he's one that you can get extended. When we look a little bit deeper into the after next year, you're probably looking at guys like Olu. You can get Olu done a little early. Obviously, Will McDonald's going to be playing on his fifth-year option, so you got to figure out if you want to extend him or not. You've got Tavondre Sweat, who would be eligible to extend. A.D. Mitchell would be eligible. And then, of course, after this year, Juwan Briggs as well. Juwan Briggs has been a very surprisingly awesome, good player for us. So very excited about Briggs. So, yeah, there are some players that we can spend some money on, but I think you got the core of everyone you really needed to right now. And we don't have that many people who are free agents after this year besides like Cisco, Enigbare, folks like that, Belton, Nashawn Wright. So people that you could re-sign if they play well. So that's where I'm at in terms of some of these extensions, and I'm feeling really good about where we're at. And Muji's doing a great job of getting ahead of this stuff, especially with the cap space that we have. All right, last two things I want to talk about. This Geno Smith situation. So a video came out yesterday of a woman saying that Geno Smith was a bad dad to his special needs kid, abusive, and that he, was a bad guy and she was calling the cops or whatever. I freaked out immediately because I'm like, I am so afraid that Geno Smith is still immature, and I don't know. I saw it too much when he was with the Jets. I saw the immaturity, and I just have not gotten over it, and I need to get over it eventually, but he needs to show me that I should be over it. And to see a story like that, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. We had such a quiet offseason. Nobody was getting in trouble. Everything was going well, and then this has to come out. But then you hear a story from his kid's mom. So I don't know if it's his wife, ex-girlfriend. I don't know what it is. But it sounds like she was like, he's a great dad. He doesn't do anything wrong. He loves his kid. Like that. So that holds a lot of water with me. If the mom of the child is saying that he's a good dad, then I'm going to believe her. And then you see that the cops came and then there were no charges or anything like that. So it sounded like this woman was just spewing stuff to get, some money, fame, whatever out of this. And there's nothing to it. We'll see as it still plays out. Like, I don't want to make assumptions right away, but got me really nervous really fast. I was like, why can't we just have a quiet off season and everything just go smoothly? And of course it had to be Geno out of all the players, someone who I'm already not trusting, has to be the one in the story. But it sounds like it's not his fault he was involved in this story. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm not passing any judgment until we figure out what actually happened here. But because none of the beat writers are really talking about it, I haven't heard any statements from the Jets or anything like that. It sounds like this is a nothing thing, and maybe we'll hear more as we get closer to training camp, but we'll see how it goes. With that, training camp dates were announced. Let me actually get the exact dates for everybody. Training camp dates for the Jets 2026. I think it was the 25th of July. So rookie reporting date is going to be July 25th. So we are a little over a month away, and then veteran reporting date is the 28th, which usually means the first practice is going to be the 29th or 30th of July. They will be hosting a joint practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on August 11th, and then, of course, they'll face them on the 14th in an actual game. So that's the big news. So we got a lot of time. We got about 4 weeks until people start showing up, and we can talk about actual football again. So I'm pumped. I will be at a training camp practice, maybe 2, depending on how many Saturday or Sunday dates they do. That's always the big thing. I can't go during the week, so it's got to be one of those weekend dates. So looking forward to seeing everybody there, getting back into the swing of things. Last thing, I know we got about 5 minutes, so we hit the 30-minute mark. The last thing I want to talk about is the Brendan Sorsby situation. So obviously we just did an episode, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about how Brendan Sorsby was allowed to play college football again. Turns out he is not going to play college football. He has opted to enter the supplemental draft for the NFL. Usually that's sometime in early July. We'll see when the supplemental draft is. He's going to work out for the teams and all that kind of stuff. But essentially what this means is now each team can place a pick bid on Sorsby. So like the Jets can say, I'm going to bid my second-round pick on Sorsby. And if no one bids a first, or if a team that's not higher than the Jets in the draft order, which we were second, so we would be the highest, well, one of the highest, we would get Sorsby for that second. But like, let's say we put in for a third and someone else, like the Cardinals, put in for a second, he goes to the Cardinals. And you lose that draft pick for the 2027 draft. Now, for me, the 2027 draft is looking really good, so I'm not a huge fan of giving up top assets. So I think that's one, is I don't want to give up assets in this draft. Number 2, when would we see him play? Like, he is under investigation for crazy gambling issues. The NFL is going to have to do something about that and probably suspend him. And if you're suspended by the NFL, that means you are not at the facility. You are not practicing. The Jets would have no idea whether he is a quarterback that's ready for us or not. And we're obviously going to be taking one in the first round next year, or trading for a veteran or whatever it might be. So are you really going to waste a draft pick on Sorsby when you already spent one on Klubnik, plus you're going to spend one on this first round quarterback, and you've never seen him play? So we don't know if he's going to be awesome. Now, Sorsby's got talent. Like, he could be really good. We're not sure, but he could also just go gamble again and get kicked out of the NFL in a year. I think the other thing here, too, is this brings a lot of negative attention, especially if he goes to the Jets. If he goes to the Cardinals, maybe you hear it for a week and then you never hear about it again. If he comes to the Jets, it's just going to be a story the entire year that we picked the gambling guy who's suspended for a year from the NFL. Like, look at Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year for like a minor gambling thing. This guy was betting on his own, like Sorsby was betting on his own team, which is crazy. So I don't know. I could see it if the Jets really want to take a swing and say, you know what? If no one gives up a 5th or a 6th, I will throw that in there and get a talent like Sorsby. And then worst comes to worst, you trade him eventually, you cut him, whatever you want to do. I don't think I'm giving up any picks in the top 4 rounds for him. And honestly, if I was in Muji's shoes, I'd probably put it in for a 7th, and that would be it. And just let someone else deal with it, because I'd rather do this the right way, get the right quarterback who has the right character through the NFL draft, and that's that. I think this would be a good move for someone like the Eagles, if the Eagles wanted to take a risk. If maybe not the Rams, if they didn't take Ty Simpson, this would be a good spot for the Rams. Maybe the Falcons want to do it because they don't know about Penix. Tua's there, but he's injury prone. That could be an interesting one. Trying to think if there's anybody else top of mind that could be interesting. Maybe Packers for like a backup role. That could be interesting because then you're kind of just like hidden in Wisconsin and we won't really hear from them again. Detroit would be interesting. Someone to back up Jared Goff or take over for him eventually. But I don't know. Even that, like some of these teams are very high character teams and don't like people that do stuff like this. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm just I'm anti for the Jets taking Sorsby right now, and if we do, we'll see how the circus shakes out. But yeah, I'm kind of off that bandwagon right now. All right, so I think that's it. I don't think I have any other topics to bring up. I want to do a couple fun episodes coming up, or maybe we can do some nostalgia stuff. I like the list type things, like favorite moments, maybe best players on the team. I've got some ideas of things that we can cook up. Like, especially for me, I could talk about some of the stadiums I've been to. I could do a ranking of those. I think that could be fun. So I've got a lot going on, but if there's no news, I'm going to lean on the fun stuff, and otherwise I'll keep you updated across all socials. If I hear anything, I'll do my shorts across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at JuicyJet25. Please like, rate, subscribe, review, follow wherever you're listening to this. It would really help. I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed. And I think I will be on the Jets Worldwide show live on Friday. I got to check in with those guys. It might be this week. It might be next week. I got to check my dates. But I'll let you guys know so that you can join, ask some questions, and I'll answer them live. You can even call in, whatever you want to do. So thank you all for listening. I will talk to y'all later. Go Jets.